Longlegs was hands down one of my most anticipated films of the year. I feel like most of this anticipation can be attributed to this film's advertising campaign, which is quite different compared to a lot of films that I was excited to see. Other films like Hitman or Monkey Man were movies that I wanted to see because I knew of the directors and I wanted to check out their stuff. I had never really seen anything from Osgood Perkins before this, so I was just kinda interested to check it out because it looked cool. There was one trailer I recall seeing where the filmmakers reportedly attached a heart monitor to Micah Monroe as she saw Nicolas Cage as Longlegs for the first time, and her heart rate went up to like 170 BPM. They actually played the sound of her heart racing over the scene, and that was some insanely cool shit. I know they also made like a 1995 style website where they were chronicling the series of murders that occur in the film. I thought this advertising was really cool, especially some of the trailers that I saw in theaters for this movie where we were basically told nothing about what it was going to be about, but it piqued my interest nonetheless, and that's why I decided to go see it. That alongside the positive reviews that it was receiving on Letterboxd and across the internet as a whole. And now that I've seen the film, I can say with conviction that it didn't disappoint. Longlegs unapologetically forced me to the edge of my seat during its entire duration, albeit I'll acknowledge that it kind of began to peter out a tad bit near the end. It's a film that absolutely knows how to take advantage of the frame, capturing and effectively utilizing a generous amount of negative space during long, unsettling scenes of quiet, inviting you to begrudgingly drink in every corner of the screen as you hopelessly anticipate something appearing. Oftentimes, in moments of tension, characters are placed in the center of the screen, so your eyes kind of tend to wander to each of the different sides of the frame because you're expecting something to pop out, and I think that this is a great way to build tension. There are plenty of moments over the course of the film to justify this style, given its dark subject matter and dingy color scheme that makes me feel icky and gross, similar to films like Seven or The House That Jack Built. The visual style of the film also aided in enhancing the fleeting moments of safety peppered throughout the movie as well. The main character, Lee Harker, is an FBI agent investigating a series of murders that are referred to as the birthday murders, which means she carries a piece. It's just nice to have a horror movie protagonist who isn't just defenseless and stupid, and the camera amplifies this aspect of her character through some of the different angles. A lot of the shots in the movie where Lee is holding her gun are shot out of somewhat of a fisheye lens, placing Lee in the center and her gun on the far sides of the screen, making it seem larger in the shot. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was a distinct visual that I enjoyed seeing. Another unique visual that I really liked is the inclusion of human legs sticking out from behind partitions, which kind of ties into the movie's title and killer by the same name. Really good direction from Osgood Perkins, who's actually the son of Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates in Psycho. I did not know he was a nepo baby, but that's a pretty cool fact. The visuals in this movie are really good in general, especially the makeup. There are a few gory scenes in this film, and the blood effect looks quite realistic. The performances were all great, especially from the lead Micah Monroe and Nicolas Cage. I mean, all of these aspects of the film that I've discussed are what the film excels at. However, I've seen a lot of criticism regarding the film's narrative, claiming it was one of the weaker aspects of the film. Given how the way horror tends to affect some is subjective, I can absolutely see this as sound criticism. Personally, I believe that Longlegs excels in what it chooses to focus on, being its environment and how it's utilized to progress the story. I'm going to delve into a few spoilers here. I'm not going to dwell on it for very long, but if you want to keep watching and hear my final thoughts, then you can skip to this part right here. Anyway, there's your warning. Here we go. A lot of my problems with Longlegs seem to come from the narrative's strange tendency to include seemingly useless details that don't seem to add much to the unfolding story. At the beginning of the movie, Lee discovers she's half psychic. Yeah, that's right, half psychic, not full psychic, but just half. As far as I remember, this is included to set the tone of the film, and it doesn't really go anywhere. I forgot it was even a plot point right after I walked out of the theater, and I'm more just confused as to why it was even included in the film in the first place. The film is broken up into 3 different parts, in which the third part of the film is disproportionately longer than the first 2. The first part of the film is called The Letters, in which Lee discovers a series of what may as well be encoded calling cards from Longlegs at all the locations in which the birthday murders have occurred. There's this whole secret alphabet that Longlegs created and uses for these letters a la Zodiac, but Longlegs ends up leaving a card for Lee at one point, and it has a key on it, and she just figures it out from there, and the cards are only brought up once after that. She decodes another letter at a crime scene that just happens to say download too slow, and then the letters just don't ever show up again throughout the course of the film. Just a weird structural choice that I didn't really understand. In fact, you could probably argue that these aren't even major spoilers because they don't have any lasting impact on anything that happens in the movie. There are also some very strange aspects with Longlegs regarding its structure as well. I feel like the film takes a sharp turn to focus a lot more on the neo-noir aspect of Longlegs' narrative near the end of the film, whereas at the very beginning it's a very slow tension builder. I think both of these work really well together, but you can kind of see how your tension at the beginning of the film kind of peters out near the end. What tends to get me really scared in both movies and video games alike is the concept of the unknown. Something that I have not been permitted to see is oftentimes scarier than when I actually get to see how bad it really is. There's a moment in this film where Lee is investigating a crime scene, and you actually get to see some of the rotting corpses that are located at the house that she's investigating, and I feel like every moment after that wasn't really as scary as it could have been. And I feel as if that's because I just didn't know what to expect when the film started. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to bash this film for this tonal shift. I don't really see much of an issue with it personally. The film clearly had its focus, and it excelled in the places that it did focus on. However, in regards to the way that the film was marketed, I could definitely see reasons as to why some people weren't really that big of a fan of the way that the film was structured. The film was advertised as being one of the scariest, darkest movies you may have ever seen in your entire life, and it kind of takes a turn away from that near like the last 30 minutes, so if the film's being advertised in that way, it might come off as a little misleading. A lot of the criticism that I heard from people is they didn't really get what they wanted from it. Anyway, I feel like I'm kind of able to overlook these problems that I have with the narrative because Longlegs just seems to be using other methods of filmmaking to enhance itself in a positive way, and it remains a very dynamic and interesting film that I'd argue is one of the better films that's been released this year. While I don't really think it's one of the scariest films I've ever seen, albeit I will admit it's kind of strange that they leaned into that in their advertising, and the last portion of the film seems more catered to the genre of neo-noir, it does a good job at building tension and leaving you with a feeling of unease. It's kind of similar in vein to other modern horror films that I could see becoming classics, like It Follows. Anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10. Go check it out. It's pretty good.